I never thought my Porsche 911, the one indulgence I worked my whole life for, would end up as bait in a crime unfolding right in my own driveway. But that's exactly what happened when the HOA president sent 2 fake cops with a tow truck to steal it in broad daylight. What she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly imagine, was that I'm a U.S. Marshal, and she had just walked herself straight into the biggest mistake of her life. When we first moved to Greenfield, all I wanted was peace. After years of busting down doors, chasing fugitives across state lines, I wanted a quiet neighborhood where the only drama was deciding whose turn it was to bring chips to the block party. My wife, Danielle, found the house a white picket fence, a lawn so green it looked like carpet, a 2-car garage stuffed with boxes we hadn't unpacked. For about a month, it was perfect. And then we met Karen. Her name was Karen Kyle, the president of the HOA. She wore that title like it was a royal crown. Only the crown was made of thorns, and she poked people with it every chance she got. It started small, $25 fines for a garden hose not properly coiled, another for our welcome mat being the wrong shade of beige. I paid them not because I agreed, but because it felt easier than arguing. But paying off a bully doesn't make them stop, it just makes them bolder. The fines grew. Aesthetic imbalance of lawn. Mailbox alignment. She invented rules as she went. And then one morning I walked outside and saw my Porsche sitting on 4 flat tires, each one slashed clean surgical. No note, no witness, but I knew. I've spent a career hunting predators, and I could smell petty, vindictive evil. I replaced the tires, and the very next day a notice appeared on my door. Final warning. According to Karen, my Porsche was leaking fluids and in disrepair. Brand new car, perfect condition, except for the tires she had destroyed. The notice threatened to tow it if I didn't move it. Move it, where my garage was still full of boxes and overnight parking on the street was against her rules. She had me boxed in a perfect little trap. That's how I ended up standing on Elm Street at noon, the sun hammering down, staring at a rusty flatbed tow truck angled across my driveway. 2 men, built like refrigerators, were by my car, one hooking up the chain, the other smirking like he couldn't wait to see me flinch. Karen stood behind them, arms crossed, tablet clutched like a scepter visor low over her eyes. She checked her watch. Right on schedule. I'd spent my morning preparing. No weekend polo this time. I pulled on a black t-shirt with bold white letters, U.S. Marshal. Not a costume. The same shirt we wore during training raids. Comfortable, but more importantly a message. I let the screen door slam behind me and walked out shoulders square. Danielle had her phone up live streaming to the neighborhood page. I wanted witnesses. That's far enough, Mr. Matthews, Karen called out smug and sharp. This is official HOA business. This is a public street, Karen. I said evenly, eyes locked on hers. For the record, I am U.S. Marshal George Matthews and I'm documenting a crime in progress. Her smirk didn't falter. The bigger of the 2 goons tugged up his sleeve to flash a fake traffic enforcement armband. Wrong seal, wrong font. He pointed at a flimsy placard on the dashboard. Total fraud. Danielle zoomed in. Got it, she whispered into her mic. Fake badge and placard on camera. Comments on the live stream exploded. Fake cops. Felony territory. The goon stepped closer, chest puffed. Back off before you get hurt, he growled. His buddy dropped the chain, walked around the car, and when he reappeared, he wasn't empty-handed anymore. A crowbar glinted in the sun. Danielle's voice crackled in my ear. We've got over 200 viewers, George. Everyone sees it. The big guy leaned in, breath sour with old coffee. Or what? That shirt don't mean a damn thing. I kept my hands open, voice steady. This is your last chance. You're about to commit grand theft auto and felony assault. Walk away. Karen laughed high and shrill. You hear that he's threatening us? That was the signal. The goon shoved me hard, trying to knock me off balance. But I'd been ready for it. My feet held firm. The crowbar swung, but I stepped inside the arc, redirected his momentum, and with one clean move, knocked it free. A palm, strike a shove, and both men were on the pavement within seconds. I didn't throw a punch. I didn't need to. Years of training aren't about violence, they're about control. On camera, I crouched to check their injuries, kept my tone calm. explained every move for the live stream. Danielle whispered, "Perfect optics. Everyone sees you helping." Within minutes, deputies rolled up. Karen shrieked for them to arrest me, waving her arms, but when I handed over my Marshal credentials, the deputy's whole posture shifted. He ignored her, completely focused on me. And Danielle, bless her, had already traced the tow truck to a shell company Karen herself had created unlicensed, uninsured illegal from top to bottom. The deputies cuffed her hired muscle and impounded her truck right there in front of her. For once, she wasn't holding the paper. She was clutching a citation. But Karen wasn't done. Oh no. That night she hammered on my front door, her face blotchy purple with rage. "You did this. You had my cart towed," she spat. Because earlier that day, her fuchsia golf cart, her personal chariot, had been hauled off after she parked it directly in front of a fire hydrant. I hadn't lifted a finger except to call the fire marshal. Watching her golf cart embroidered with her initials get ticketed and towed was the sweetest bit of irony I'd tasted in years. Still, when she stood there jabbing her finger at me, screaming about harassment, I'll admit something cracked inside me. I was tired. I'd come to Greenfield for peace, not for war, with a wannabe queen in a tennis skirt. For a moment I thought, maybe I should just sell the car, pay the fines, stay quiet. Maybe she'd finally leave me alone. But then Danielle came up behind me, slid her arms around my waist, and whispered, "George, you can't let her win. Not here, not like this." And she was right. Bullies don't stop when you surrender. They stop when you fight back. That's when we decided we'd set a trap. We let the Porsche look vulnerable again, low tire, little coolant puddle under the engine. Danielle rigged hidden cameras inside, streaming to a secure server. She even built a kill switch, so with one click the Porsche would turn into a 3,000-pound paperweight. And we baited the hook by filing an anonymous complaint, my own car leaking fluids in disrepair. Who got the case? Karen's partner in crime? City Inspector Frank Miller. He slapped an orange sticker on my Porsche without even knocking on the door. The countdown began. 72 hours later, at 2 in the morning, the same rusty tow truck rolled up. Ricky and Mike, Karen's loyal thugs, hooked the Porsche. Danielle pushed the livestream live HOA stealing car from residents' driveway. Within seconds, hundreds of neighbors tuned in. They laughed, called it reality TV. Ricky slid into my Porsche, steering it down the block under the floodlight of a street lamp, grinning like he'd won. "Now," I said. Danielle pressed the button. The Porsche died instantly. Locked transmission, dead weight. The tow truck screeched to a halt, dragging skid marks across the asphalt. Hazard lights blinked automatically. Blink, 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 lighting up the street like a stage. Ricky and Mike panicked, tugging at the car, shouting at each other. Neighbors poured out of their homes, phones up, watching the circus. And online, over 1,000 people were seeing it unfold in real time. I dialed 911. "I'd like to report a grand theft auto in progress," I said calmly. "You can't miss it. It's the tow truck stuck to a silver Porsche dead in the middle of Elm Street." Then I hung up and called someone else, the FBI field office. What followed was swift. The FBI raided the warehouse where Karen's crew held stolen cars, catching the buyers red-handed. They had Venmo records tying Frank Miller to Karen's Operation Doorbell cam footage of her paying off her muscle and live evidence of a conspiracy. It was airtight. But I didn't just want her arrested quietly. I wanted her exposed. The next night was the HOA monthly board meeting. Karen walked into the clubhouse smiling like nothing had happened, ready to lecture us about mailbox colors. At exactly 7:15, Danielle hit the button. The TV on the wall flickered, and suddenly the homeowners weren't watching local news, they were watching FBI agents batter down a warehouse door. The feed streamed live, showing stolen cars, buyers cuffed on the floor, and an agent stating clearly, this operation was run by the Greenfield HOA president, Karen Kyle. The room gasped. Everyone turned to stare at Karen. Her smile collapsed into pure panic. "Lies," she screamed, pointing at me. "He's framing me." But then neighbors began shouting, recognizing their stolen bikes, trailers, cars right there on screen. Chaos filled the room. And then the clubhouse doors opened. 2 deputies walked straight to the head table. Karen Kyle, the lead, said, voice echoing off the walls. "You're under arrest for conspiracy, grand theft, and racketeering." The click of handcuffs was like a gavel slamming down. Her reign ended right there in front of everyone she'd tormented. As she was led out, her eyes locked on mine, burning with a rage that could have set fire to the room. But it didn't matter anymore. The community saw the truth. The law saw the truth. And Karen's empire of petty tyranny crumbled with the sound of chains around her wrists. That's when I knew no one, no matter how powerful they think they are, is ever untouchable.